Hello, my name is Linda, also known as Tortajala around the internet, and I love creative journaling and all things stationery. So, this video is very long and it is a bunch of videos that I've stitched together as I go through my traveler's notebook collection, taking stock of inventory, resetting up my TNs, and generally, I'm going to be chatting a lot about my thoughts regarding what I really want out of my stationery hobby and how I plan to move forward. So, definitely grab a tasty drink and cuddle up to listen in on this stationery story time. So, lately, I've been trying very hard to look around my space and keep working on my decluttering efforts in attempts to organize my space better and also shop my own stash. I have always loved stationery. Even as a kid, I spent like all my money at the Sanrio store, buying pens, erasers, notebooks, that kind of thing. Now that I'm older, maybe it's a little more intense because I have more buying power and there's so much more product being released, right? And there's also so much more access online. I think it's very easy to accumulate and buy probably too much than we can actually use. And I realized that I have been neglecting my traveler's notebooks, even though I bought some new supplies recently and I had amazing ideas in my mind, but everything just remained in their packaging. I didn't even have time or really put in the effort to make time to like open things up and set things up. Part of the issue is that I have too many things. Um, I, everything's sort of a mess. Being like the other part of the issue is being disorganized, right? And finally, just not being very intentional as to why I'm using what I'm using. Things just got overwhelming and I got a little lost. So I really just need to like reconnect and reassess. Although a hobby doesn't need to be a thing that's like so regimented, we certainly don't have to like hit goals or something in our hobby. But to be happy in a hobby, I think it's supposed to be an enjoyable thing, right? That's important to me. So we all do have some kind of expectation from our hobby that's going to contribute to that happiness. Like there are end goals usually, and it's important to stop and think about that sometimes because knowing like your why, it's going to help you in your decision making. And I know this might sound a bit overboard for some people because it's supposed to just be, fun, a hobby. But as with all things in your life, you set yourself up for more stress if you don't have a clear idea of what you want out of it. So, if my ultimate goal is to have a good time with my stationery, have fun in the process, the decisions that like I make, they should contribute or lead to that result, right? I definitely want to enjoy the process. I like playing with my stationery, and of course, there are some elements of planning and productivity and memory keeping that I want as a result. So, whatever it is, we all probably have like a mix of these goals for the stationary thing we proclaim as just being a hobby, right? In pondering and like considering all of this, I am applying it to like specifically my traveler's notebook collection first because it's easier for me personally to deal with like one thing at a time, one group. Otherwise, I would get overwhelmed and just abandon ship. So I started by gathering all of my traveler's notebook things, everything onto my desk so that I could see it all together. Um, I've been like a bit disorganized, so I had things in different places. And when I put it all together, I found that I had a lot of duplicates. I seemed to have a hoarding issue with inserts, apparently. And I also had new things that I didn't even open yet. So my TNs were not fully set up, they were not in use, even though, like, I had the best of intentions. The ideas were in my head, but they just exist in my imagination instead of actually doing the things. It honestly was a bit difficult, this starting process. I like started and stopped. um, I stared at my desk for long periods of time as well because it was just giving me anxiety. You can see me going through like all my things, all the supplies, all the extra tidbits here and there, just things piling up and not in use. I also found this like off brand pen holder thing that had stuck to a passport insert, and the glue residue was coming off and making things dirty. It was just gross. I was feeling like a total like stationery hoarder and just feeling sort of disappointed in myself for not being more on top of things. I always have this issue of feeling guilty. Like, people are dying and fighting for their lives, in other places. And here I am, overwhelmed by my stationery. Like, it's pretty silly. But I have to say that going through this process, like, it was helpful to do an inventory check. And I really do recommend it. It just helps you to put everything in perspective because when you put them like things away in the shelf, it's like out of sight, out of mind. So going through this process, it really helped me to take stock of all the things that I had, and this is just like TN related. Um, I did learn. I can definitely say I pretty quickly realized that I am not a collector. And what I mean by that is that I don't want to collect stationery for the sake of collecting. Like, I actually want to use all my things as much as possible. Now, I have been tempted to like buy things just to have them because that is the collector mentality. Whenever there's like a new release, it's almost automatic. It's like, oh, I should get that. Instead of thinking like a bit more deeply about why I should get it, like if I'll use it and what for, um, I don't know. We forget sometimes. Like, you can appreciate something, you can love it, you can think it's beautiful, but you don't have to buy it and own it. You can admire it from afar. That is okay too. And of course, on the flip side, there's nothing wrong with being a collector if that's what you want. I just realized for myself that's not what I want. It doesn't bring me joy to see my stuff like in mint condition unwrapped on my shelves. I actually don't like that. I really want things because I want to use them. So, of course, I am only one person. So, you can't, like there's a limit to how much I can use at one time. So, I need to be more mindful about shopping and acquiring things. And I started to evaluate like the multiple TNs I have and just try to make sense of it all. I already have a lot of stuff, so obviously I just need to deal with what I have first. So this like first step was to just take stock, take a look through all my stuff so that I could have a sense of things. And I learned that I don't want my stuff to cause me guilt or stress. My whole point of like delving into this stationery hobby is because I love paper things and accessories and journaling and keeping memories. Every time I create a page, it's like reliving a happy moment or helping myself process difficult times. So it's part journaling, part documentation. And very much it's all about also enjoying the process and having a good time. So even though I'm constantly tempted, like the temptations have not gone away, the feelings of FOMO, wanting to add to cart, they're probably never going to go away. It's just human nature. But I have to try to remind myself to reflect first and be more intentional. And I know that there's definitely less enjoyment for me when I don't have time to play with my stationery. Um, like after buying it. So, like if I have 20 TNs, there's no way I can dedicate time to them all, and it makes me more sad than happy. Maybe after I've used a TN for many years, I can like retire it and feel satisfied and then add more to my collection. Who knows? But it's a very personal thing. So you sort of have to like figure out your own guidelines, your own rules, your own limits, and try to follow by what works for you. And again, always thinking back to your end goal, right? Like what it is you want out of all of this so that the decisions you are making align with your goals and intentions. So I had bought like I don't know, even the 2024 like standard size weekly booklets with the best intentions of doing like some themed project, but I never got to it. Like I never went past decorating the covers and never kept up. So really, I have plenty of stuff to work on at this point. With what I have, um, there's plenty to do, and so I really don't need to buy a single thing. Of course, at this point, I've already pre-ordered some of the 2025 Travelers Company items. But I do have to say, I am proud of myself because I was more intentional this time. I didn't just like buy it all like the way some people do, again, which is fine if that's what you want to do and it makes you happy. But for me, I know that I wasn't going to use all the things. So it didn't make sense for me to just order the entire collection. I'm happy that I took time to think about it, even um, when the pre-order happened, and I only bought the things that I knew that I was going to use. So, none of the weekly inserts and only like one pencil board and one overlay because I only liked those designs, like the colors. And I will be using a standard size monthly, so I bought that one, but that's it. I didn't buy any extra ones. Oh, and the sticker set. But I didn't buy any like other things just because I wanted more stickers or something like that because I have done that in the past. And it's just like it's nice to have the stickers, but at the same time, if you don't have them, it's like it's fine. There are plenty of other things to play with. So it's really it's really not as bad, you know what I mean, to like quote unquote miss out on something because there will always be something else for you to play with. And it's probably not a big deal. And I realized that I need to not do the impulse things because it's the impulse things that cause you to make decisions that are not aligned with your end goal. Like usually we all get excited about things, pretty easily if we love like all the stationary things. But if you do take the time to think about it, reflect on it, maybe even journal on it, which is something that has helped me a lot, to actually journal about the stationary things before ordering or buying or whatever. And it helps me to make a much just better decision than to just, collect, collect, collect. So I don't know if you guys have already got your 2025 Travelers Company items, if you've pre-ordered or waiting and just gonna order them later. Definitely let me know down in the comments. I'm always curious as to what people think about the new theme and the new designs. And this year, it seems that a lot of people actually don't like the new theme, Love and Trip. It's pretty interesting. Usually there's like a good reaction, but at least in my sphere of people that I follow and stuff, I overwhelmingly heard that a lot of people just don't connect and like not just don't connect but like really didn't like it, and were disappointed and wish that Travelers Company did a different theme, which is really interesting. um I don't know. I, on the other hand, I actually really like the 2025 new theme that is Love and Trip, and it's something that it pulls at my heartstrings because the world can be a very scary place. And there are so many dangerous things going on right now. I think it's just nice to see the promotion of something about connection and sharing through common ground, through our love of TNs and traveling. If you read the announcement on the Travelers Company blog, it will explain it much better than I can. But even the sticker designs, they actually touch on like some music and literature and things like that in our culture that relate. And I actually noticed right away one of the little designs with a bird. It says, "Swallow, swallow, little swallow, I will stay with you always." That is a reference to The Happy Prince. It's a story written by Oscar Wilde. It's in a collection of his stories for children, and I totally recommend you reading it. But ultimately, the moral is just about helping people in need and like doing good in this world. So I really like the 2025 theme, and I think it's a lovely reminder and timely, especially because of the times that we are in right now, where a lot of violence is happening, there's a lot of tension, um, just across the globe, not just in the US. So I don't know, I just really like it. So as I went through all of my TN things, I took stock and um, tried to come to grips with like all the things that I have. And the takeaway points, as I mentioned, are just about how I don't want to just collect for the sake of collecting. I want to use my items and I don't want them to cause me guilt or stress or anxiety just looking at all the things. So, after looking through all my stuff, I did take a fair amount of time, like a break, um, just brainstorming and journaling and um, thinking about all my TNs and what I might use each one for. So I did do some journaling, like scratchy, like brainstorming, brain dumping kind of thing, and sort of decided what I was going to use each of my TNs for. And that is what helped me to basically go back and then look through my stuff and go through each TN and be like, okay, I'm going to set each one up again and make the decision of what I'm going to use each one for. So I have this traveler's train, and originally, like I was just being very, straightforward, like, oh, I'll just document train trips. But obviously, unless you're like an avid train traveler, I mean, how often are you gonna, put stuff into this insert? So I thought that was silly. Like, that just doesn't even make sense. And that's not enough for me. You know what I mean? I would like to touch this TN more and use it more. So I realized that whenever I get like a special edition TN, I do really like to document the fact that, I got this special edition. So I will do a couple pages about that. But ultimately, this TN is just going to be my Italy TN. I live in Italy, even though I'm originally from California, from the United States, and I've been to many, many cities. And even though I've documented them sort of like in the context of my family memory keeping, I haven't done like sort of like a personal journaling perspective on all of these different towns and places that I visited in Italy. So I have previously had this idea before, and I even wrote down like on the post-it notes all the cities and things like that that I want to note because I have all the pictures and everything. So I thought, "Ah, what better way than to document it in here? Sort of like an ode to each city that I visited to be like, hey, I went to Florence and this is my favorite thing, or this is like the poignant memory or whatever, whatever it is that I want. Again, going back to that end goal of revisiting a really happy memory and something that I want to document. So that is what my train TN is going to be all about. And I have the insert in one of these like plastic passport covers, which is just from Amazon. It's like literally for your passport, but I bought like a pack of 10, so I use them a lot on my inserts because I'm always afraid the leather will like rub off on the insert. So that's why I put the plastic there for protection. And what I've done is just gathered some supplies and put it in this craft folder. Some of like anything that's like train related or that I think I might use in this particular documentation in this insert. And you can see I did stamp this craft folder when I went to the one stamp caravan, um, the one the only one that I've been to in person. So that is my traveler's TN. And I decided also to change the elastic because I didn't want it to be like gray anymore. I don't know why. I just wanted it to have a different look. One thing that I think is interesting is that the cloth bag that comes with Traveler's Train is brown, and then the TN is black. I think that is like so weird and mismatched. I mean, is that matching colors for you? I don't know why. I mean, I don't hate it or anything. I just think it's interesting that they chose those colors to put together. But yeah, that is my Traveler's TN. So I'm definitely very happy to have like reset this up and sort of like reignited my excitement for this particular insert and how I'm going to be using it and what I'm documenting in it. Because previously I was trying to do something so specific, it was like too much, you know what I mean? And it would mean that I would touch this like so minimally, because we do use trains here in Italy, but like our family, we're a family of five, so it's not often that we would use the train instead of like a different mode of transportation. And if we're taking the same route all the time, I mean, how many times are you going to document like the same, trip? Sort of like if you use the subway, there's only so many times you can do that. So the renewed like goal of this TN and insert makes so much more sense to me now and is so much more inviting and exciting than what I had planned to do before. And I think it's important to note that if something is not like jiving with you, just change it. Like, I think it's funny how sometimes I'm, I think of an idea and I'm so set on like doing that project, and it's hard for me to be like, no, I'm not going to do it. I'm just going to change it. You know what I mean? Um, we can be flexible because this is not work, this is a hobby. So, of course, you can change um, what it is you originally meant to do. So, that is my learnings from this particular TN and insert. So I have this one set up and I'm really happy. And I also want to use the cloth bag. That's why I like put it in there. And I thought that anytime I come upon anything that I want to use in this traveler's train, my Italy insert, I'm just going to stick it in that bag. And this is right on my desk because I am planning to have all of these TNs on like the left hand side of my desk, like against the wall. Um, that way, they're always in view, they are always accessible, and I can use them. So I thought maybe this sticker release paper insert would be something good to include as well. As I go through maybe other supplies and stuff, I might have not just train related, but like travel and it's like Italian, type decorations and things. And I sort of like having a kit. So I would like put all that stuff together in one place so that I could use all of those things together with that one TN. So that would work really well for me. And what I'm going to do is basically go through each of my TNs and like reset them up now that I have a better idea of what I want to use each one for, and I have a better idea of all the stuff that I have, like the inventory of things. So this is like that plastic A4 sized, um, I don't know what you call it, like clear folder, but it's meant to keep like A4 sized paper. And I realize I'm going to use that in like an everyday carry instead because I don't really need it in this TN. And this Traveler's Diner TN, it did travel all over California when I went traveling last year. And that's when I went to Flax and the stamp caravan that happened there. So I did stamp like a million things. It was like my one time that I could go to an event. So I definitely went crazy, but I didn't go the first day. Like I went after because I couldn't go on the first day. My sister-in-law took me um, I don't know, maybe like days after, like on the weekend. And I had my baby with me. She was like strapped to me in my carrier. And when we got there, I asked the lady about the stamp caravan. She's like, yeah, yeah, all the stamps are there. But she was like, it was crazy. We don't have any stickers left. And there's barely any traveler's notebook items, like even for sale left. Like they were cleared out. So when I got there, I just bought like whatever inserts they had left and, um, stamped as much as I could. And the shop itself was a really cool like art shop as well. So we did a lot of like shopping there. And I also stamped something for one of my sister-in-law's friends that's into stationery. So it was just like a really fun time. And so I really love this Traveler's Diner um, standard size cover that has like a lot of those memories. But the two like California inserts that I did, I already like filled those up and they're like super giant and fat. And the actual Traveler's Diner insert that I have here, I am using for restaurants. And really, I I'm gonna continue with that. Um, I started documenting like my diner experiences because I did really connect with this theme because I grew up going to diners like with my friends. Back in Southern California, we had quite a few restaurants like that. We had the restaurant where like the girls are on roller skates, serving you, and amazingly enough, here in Italy, there is a chain of restaurants called American Diner, and they have ladies on on roller skates serving you because they're doing the whole diner theme. So it was just like a really cool connection from like my childhood to like now taking my kids there. So I definitely really liked this whole idea, and I thought it would be, just perfect for documenting eating out because we do eat out, not like super often, but like we do eat out at different places. So I think it's a nice thing to document like the different restaurants, what we liked, what we didn't like where we usually go. So I think a lot of people do have an insert sort of like this. It's like, food insert or something like that. And I realize that it isn't necessary to separate everything into themed inserts. A lot of people just journal chronologically, which is fine. But I do family memory keeping in my A5 Modori, so that is chronological. And I think of my TNs as more themed unless it's an actual trip, in which case it would be chronological. But I really do like the idea of pulling out certain themes and topics because it's just an entirely different perspective to see like this grouping of things in one insert. But of course, as with my attempt to do like train trips that I've changed into Italy now, it's important to think about it and try to find a topic that is like not too specific that you'd barely have anything to document. Um, because otherwise you wouldn't be adding entries in regularly, and that can also be very discouraging. And definitely to me, it would be discouraging to have like a notebook or something that only has like two entries and it would take like forever to fill up. By the way, I want to take a moment to mention the new road trip TN that will be released by Travelers Company in California this fall. They announced it, and so many people were excited because it seems to be like a very universal theme, and many people connected with it, doing road trips with their family and friends, and obviously fits with the whole TN and documenting your trip. Um, the only problem is that is a limited item, so it's only going to be offered at the pop-up shops in California. They're going to like three different locations, and of course, this is because Travelers Company USA is located like the headquarters in Southern California. So of course this is like their limited TN, I guess, because there are ones in Japan, obviously, that are at certain locations. So I'm assuming they're doing like the same thing, but this is like the North American, one or the California one. So you can definitely go to the Travelers Company USA website and read about it on the blog. They also mentioned that they will sell limited amounts, maybe what's left from all the pop up shops in December. So that still means like you have to either go to the pop up shops in person, and there is a limit. Um, I believe like you can't buy like 10 of them or anything. And otherwise, you can order it from the Traveler Company USA shop, but that only sends to the United States, of course. So it's only for the US, I suppose, and not for the rest of, the international community. Now, I mentioned before, my family is actually from California. So obviously, I could ask someone to go and grab all the products for me. I actually have people in LA and people in SF, so it's like two different locations that they could go to. Um, but I was sort of immediately just sort of sad about it, actually. Um, I mean, I think the design is so cool. It's camel as well, which is something that I love, which you probably can tell because I have so many camel TNs. But I would be so much more happy if I could actually be in California and go to the pop-ups and experience it and buy it there myself, right? Asking someone else to buy it for me, it's just not that exciting to me personally. It holds like less importance and just less connection because I wasn't there to experience it. It's sort of the reason why I have not bought any of like the Japanese TNs that obviously you can get from resellers online, because I just think like when I go to Japan one day, then I'll buy them, like whatever edition there is that year or whatever the special ones in specific locations, because that would just mean so much more to me personally, and I like that idea. Also because there are so many TNs, it's not like I need one right now. Um, so like it just goes back to, do I just want one to add to my collection? Or do I have a specific use in mind? Um, so again, it's not judgment on other people who are going to ask their friends to buy them one, or anything like that. Everybody has to do what is right for them, because we all appreciate things and connect with our items differently. I just realized that for myself, I don't want to do that. I don't want to ask my family or someone, to go and just buy me all the products just because I happen to know a lot of people in California. I mean, I would have loved to have gone there myself and get it myself and participate, but I'm just not going to be there at that time. I'm not going to be back in California until next summer. So it doesn't match up with this specific, event. And honestly, I have plenty of stationery to play with. Missing out on some things, it just means that you can put energy into the things that you already have. And it's just, it's sort of similar to me not buying like the Tokyo edition TN that was released. I've never been to Tokyo like yet, but I also didn't connect with that very much, even though I did buy some of the other items like the charms and stickers and things because I did connect with other things um, that I knew that I would use. Like the Taiyaki Charm from the Tokyo edition. It's the fish one, and I really love that stack. And I have this vivid memory when I first ate one when I was in high school with my friends out because there was like this cool shop, um, this place where they opened up like a bunch of Japanese things, and there were like also like the Japanese picture taking machines where you could take like pictures with your friends and you would get little stickers of them. Like it's just such a cool memory. And um, I still love that taiyaki, snack. And I've bought it for my kids before when we were like in California. Now they have like, chain shops and things like that. But all that to say, everything is like a very personal decision. You sort of have to figure out like what you connect with, what brings you joy personally, what you want from your collection and items. Like, and again, going back to that end goal, what's going to make you happy with your things, and you don't want to get bogged down by them, um, just buying stuff. And um, so I'm going through all of my TNs, and one of the things I actually forgot to include to begin with, because I was grabbing just all of my traveler's company items, but I actually have a Moterm passport TN as well, because I love the olive color that's actually olive, and that's why you can see I have the olives that I have are actually from other companies because I like the actual olive color as opposed to the traveler's company olive is more like on the brown side, so I'm like not really sure if I want it or not. So this TN that I have here is one of my camel standard sides that I decided to add rings to. And had a whole like idea it was going to be my project journal because I often I have a bunch of projects ongoing, and I have a list of things that I do, which it's sort of committed to memory, but it would be way nicer to have like a checklist so that you can just flip through and be like, okay, I did all the things for like this one project that I always do and repeat, right? It's sort of like a manual, like an order of operations kind of manual kind of thing. That's good to have documented if you ever want to ask like someone else to do the things that you do personally, so it's not all in your head. But I tried it and I realized that one, the sizing of like TN inserts and rings, I mean, it's something very specific and not normal, so you're not going to find things out there. So you would have to create it yourself. And I just found it to be too narrow because a bunch of space on the left is eaten up by the rings. And so even though it's nice to have it in loose leaf like sheets and rings that you can reorder, I don't like the TN size for this. I would rather just use like an A5 ring binder, so you have way more room. So even though I tried, because it was such a cool idea to have rings in a TN, it just didn't work out. And I realized like I've had this sitting there and messing around with it, but never really making it useful. And I actually went ahead and punched the holes already, so now my TNs have these like giant holes in them, which is sort of sad. But it's actually not like super noticeable. It still works fine as a TN cover. So I decided to take out the rings because I'm not going to use it with the rings. And two of my TN covers, I decided to just use them for storage because I don't know what really to use them for at the moment. So this standard size is going to be holding a bunch of like standard size extra supplies and things like that. And I also have another passport size one that is going to hold a bunch of passport size supplies. And my idea is to actually have that huge chunk of supplies like there in sight, because that way I I'm like constantly reminded like, "Hey, Linda, you have a bunch of stuff there already. You don't need to buy more things if you already have all those supplies there." So that's the idea behind my TNs that have like just supplies stuck in them. So they're sort of just like storage TNs. So I have a standard or a regular size TN that is just full of supplies and it's super overflowing. And then I pulled out all my passport size, and this is the olive mo term that I was talking about, which I do actively use on a regular basis because I don't know, I guess I sort of don't mind bashing it up a lot because I bring it around the house and I just do brain dump type of journaling that is not meant to be kept, basically. So, sort of like morning pages, but instead of having to do a limited amount of pages or like frequency, it's just whenever, whatever, sort of daily, but not really. I have this Penco passport, like B7 in it, by the way, which I think is horrible quality, so I would not recommend these Penco notebooks. I don't know why. I thought they were like fountain pen friendly for some reason, but maybe only with fine pens. I don't know. They don't work well for me, but obviously I'm going to use what I have, but I would not recommend them. I think the traveler's inserts are fine. So I just do like semi daily or whenever I feel like it kind of journaling in this, and it's brain dump to just help process. And I do think that that is very helpful. Um, just like how people tend to do that in pocket notebooks where they're just writing and it's just notes or whatever, thoughts, whatever, and it just helps. So, besides that, I do have this uh, OG Midori black passport sized TN. I got it used. I saw it and it was the original Midori, so I was like, oh my God, it's like how often do we come across this? So I got it because of that. But of course, I got it because I wanted it, but I didn't really know why I would need it or what I would use it for. But I already have it, so when I did my whole brainstorming and everything, I really had to decide like, okay, I got this thing and it does make me happy to have like an original Midori stamped TN, but what am I going to use it for? And I did come up with the coolest idea. I mean, the coolest idea in my mind. It's going to be my stationary insert. And what I like about the passport size is that it's very approachable because it's such a small page. You're really committing yourself to very little because it doesn't take much to fill up one page or even a spread. But if you had more, you could just do multiple pages. So that's why I really like the passport size. And it's especially nice when you're not dealing with a lot of photos. In my family memory keeping, I use a very large, like A5 size, because I put in like 4 by 6 photos because everything does sort of come out of like my camera roll and it's all like photos first and then I'm like journaling about it. Whereas for this particular Passport TN, my plan is actually going to be like stationary drama, which I know sounds like so woo. But basically, you know, stationery is my hobby. I love all the stationary things. And in our little stationary world, sometimes there are like little scandals or dramas. And I don't even mean seriously. Sometimes it's just like little things. But that doesn't go in my family memory keeping, obviously. And I do have like personal journaling, but my life archive type of journaling is in a Hobonichi Weeks, and there's limited space. There's not really room to document like a lot of these things. And again, I really like that it is just this one topic and I can put it in like somewhere else separate. So I just thought it was perfect for this like Midori OG TN cover. Um, and it makes me want to document these things that I love. So I even made already like a whole list of topics that I'm going to be putting in this insert. So it's been so fun, like just setting up this Passport TN because it's going to be about like the origins of Midori and Traveler's Notebook and how I got into them, and the fact that I also have, by the way, I forgot to show it, but I do have the 10th anniversary like little mini and I think I did an unboxing video before on my channel. But it actually has all the history in one of the pamphlets in there too. And someone has actually made a list on Reddit as well of like all the TNs that have ever been released and all the special editions. It's just so cool to see it all documented. So it's definitely something that I want to make note of. And then there are the stationary drama sort of episodes that um, I know about, so they were of interest to me, and that is why I want to document them. So that's going to all go in here. And I'm going to use this cute little passport insert that I've hoarded for a long time, the travel tools. I believe the travel tools collection was from 2020. And I also bought these brass plate um, Travelers Company like little accessory because I really like the look when I've seen them on like other people's Traveler's Notebook. So I bought this like a while back. So this is another one of those items that I bought with the intention of putting in one of my TNs, but then I hadn't even opened the package until now. So I wanted to add it to this black TN because I think it looks just so classic, so cool. But it did take me a while to decide like where should I put this? Should it be like front and center or on the side, like unconventional location? But I did end up just putting it in what I suppose is a pretty normal location, like in the lower right hand corner. So when you buy these brass plate like label thingies, it actually comes with like instructions and it already has the adhesive that you're supposed to use to add it to your TN. So I don't know like how sturdy this is supposed to be because it's just like double stick tape, but it seems like everybody does use that. So I'm assuming it won't so easily fall off your TN. But of course, if you really wanted to commit, you could sew it onto your TN because it does have two holes. But I ended up doing like a faux sewed look because I just used some string to add like that string look to the brass plate, but then I just used the double-sided tape to stick it to the lower right-hand corner. And this isn't necessarily a TN that I'm like taking all over the place, at least not right now, so I'm not worried about it like falling off. But they do have a guide in the package to give you like that exact size of what label would fit into the little brass plate area. But the label size is actually the like full size piece of paper that will fit into the brass plate, but not actually the size of the window. Like obviously, a couple millimeters are eaten up, like on the bottom top, especially, and left and right. So I went to my computer and like printed out, typed out like stationary love, but then I realized later on maybe I don't want stationary love. I want stationary drama because that's just so much more cool. Um, and I had changed the elastic to red as well. And I just think it's like sort of funny, dramatic. And obviously, this is just stationary. It's not like real life drama or anything, but it's still something interesting to note because this is very much something that is interesting to me in the community and in the hobby when like some issue comes up and we chit chat about it online and on YouTube, on Instagram. So I do think it's like a big part of this whole stationery hobby. So this is definitely a very fun type of TN to set up and a fun thing to um, memory keep about and document. So yeah, very excited about this, and I definitely posted some snapshots on Instagram, and I definitely will share more as I get to documenting more. And I hope it's not like offensive to anyone because it is like stationary quote unquote scandals kind of thing. But at the same time, like not that serious about it, but at the same time, it's like fun. People like to gossip, people like to talk about these things. And this is like completely based on things happening in the stationary community that I know of course. Obviously, there's probably lots going on that I don't know about, but just the things um, that I hear about and, find interesting and want to document. So that is what this stationery, um, this Midori OG cover is going to be all about. And if you're curious, like I can be sometimes, um, I will be documenting not just the origins of Midori and like back in the day, I used to use like faux dories and make my own because I could not afford like a real traveler's notebook, and also back in the day it was not even that accessible, not like today. And obviously they didn't have Travelers Company USA at that point. But after that, if you want to know, I already took some notes and I do have on my list to talk about like Noodlers ink, the Mahjong Moomin thing, the Tomoe River paper to Sanzin thing, um, Love and Hate from Moleskin, the Lamy Safari Color re-release, like breaking up with this Hobonichi, and obviously that's related to like the Tomoe River paper thing. Just all of those like stationery scandals, stationery pal, um, Robert Oster, like Goulet pens, all of that kind of stuff that's been happening lately. So I think it's nice to have a place to like just talk about that. Even though I'm chit chatting online with people about it, I think it's interesting to document it and have it all in one place because it is very specific to the stationery hobby. And again, sort of lighthearted, not like super serious, but at the same time, I think it's interesting to document. So I first try to find some like black string to do my faux, like this is sewed onto the TN, but it's not kind of thing. But it just ripped apart, like it literally was disintegrating. So I guess embroidery floss is not a good option, or maybe that was like very old embroidery floss that I had in the drawer somewhere. So what I actually ended up using was um it I think it was the bookmark. I don't know if it was from this TN or from another TN, but like, the bookmark string that a lot of people actually do cut off because they don't use it in their TNs. But I used that string as my faux, um, sewn on look. And I just did like a double knot in the back because I didn't really know how is the best way to do this. But of course, that does create sort of like a bump on the back of the brass plate. So I don't know how, like, what is the proper way that you're supposed to do this? The bump was really annoying, and I was like, ugh, the adhesive is not going to work well here. So I cut it out again, and I decided to use just like a little piece of washi tape to like tape like to secure the string onto the back and then put the double-sided sticky tape that comes with these brass plates and attach it to the TN cover. So I hope that this works and lasts. But I don't know because I do live in sort of like a humidity kind of place and there are like problems with mold and sometimes like glue adhesive will just like fall off or detach. So I don't know. I don't know how long this will last. So we will see. But this is the adhesive that they include in the package for you to use. So I'm assuming it'll um, like harden over time. Like after you attach it to your TN, maybe after a certain amount of days, it will dry and be stronger. I don't know. So I'm just pressing it in and I did like try to re-stick it because I think it was sort of crooked and I tried to like adjust it. So it's not like it's tacky, but it's not like permanent stick when you put it on. So again, I don't know if it's meant to be that way or not. The only other time that I've attached things to my TN are like patches, and I've actually just glued them on with like white glue. So it's not really anything fancy. The thing about using the glue is that if your patches are iron on, then they're gonna have like a weird film on them. So then using glue is gonna, like, it's not great because that weird film, it's at some point it'll just like rip off, you know what I mean, easily. Whereas if it is a cloth patch that's supposed to be sewn on, then it's like all fabric. Then using glue, it sort of like sticks to all the fibers, so it will work a little better. So basically, I have this like flax sticker. It's the shop that they have in LA and SF, the art shop where the stamp caravan happened that I went to. So I just really like this like black and red or a black and orange whole look right now. And the old coffee trip clear folder with that orange color really matches as well. So right now I have this plastic sort of pocket thing. And again, I use it around the insert because I'm afraid the leather will rub off. But that was a plastic insert that I made by like laminating sheets, and it's not very good and it was getting a little messed up. And I do have a lot of like plastic pockets that I can use to wrap around the insert, but some of them are dirty. But I do have like a million of them. I don't know why I have so many duplicates of passport size zip pockets, probably because I forgot that I bought them. And sometimes when you're like doing a stationary order and you're trying to reach like free shipping, and then you just add little things in because you think you might need it, that is a bad move. Unless you like really study and have a list of things that you truly do need or like consume a lot of. So I just ended up using this passport plastic cover. Again, it's made for like actual passports and you can find it on Amazon. It's just like generic. So I have a bunch of those. So I decided to use that because it's like sort of the slimmest in my mind and doesn't take up a lot of space because the zip covers and card holders, they're pretty thick and they also stick out a little bit, like the zip up cover. So like the slide pocket kind of thing. So I'm just including this here, but I realized that this, um, what do you call it? Card file folder. Oh, I'm cleaning off some like dirty stuff with the plastic, which is why it's so nice to have the plastic because it's very easy to like clean off any weird like tidbits or things that you get stuck to it. But that coffee and notebooks overlay that I have, the card file, whatever you call it, um, there, I had stringed through like elastic. It's supposed to be added to your TN if you put the bookmark string through it. That's why there's a little hole in the lower right hand corner of those card file thingies. But I had strung through elastic so that it could be like um, a connecting band but I realized that I use like a green elastic, and I don't really like the green elastic with the new sort of red orange I'm that I added in and I'm going with. So I do end up changing that later on. But now I'm moving on to this other passport camel TN that I have that is probably like the most beat up because I used to use this as an EDC. I had it in my purse, and my kids have like scribbled all over it, and I have like pen marks on the front. And I had this insert that I was using to put like happy moments kind of thing, but then I abandoned it because I had it in my carry, like everyday carry, and then my kids one time like ripped a back page to like use some of the paper. But unfortunately, the way that, these are bound, if you rip out a back page, like the front page is going to get detached. So it just got messed up. And the lamination that I used actually was starting to peel off, which was really annoying. I think it's just because it's cheap lamination. I don't know why. I feel like the laminating sheets that I have now, which is a different brand, not like Amazon Basics or anything, is way better. I actually have a video on my channel, I think, making this insert. So what I'm gonna do is like dissect that insert and redo it in a different standard size because I think I want more room. So in this camel size that I am not using as an EDC anymore, I I think I'm just gonna use it for storage, and sort of like how I have a standard size TN that I'm using for all my extra stuff, I'm going to use this camel one for all my extra stuff. But it's still going to be in view with my row of TNs. And again, it's to remind myself I have all these supplies. Use them. Like, look at how many plastic, like, card insert thingies I have. And some, I mean, some are used, but some are just like complete, wrapped in the plastic. Like, what was I thinking? Why do I have so many? I have no idea why. Well, okay, I do have an idea why. It's because I didn't have my stuff organized, and I probably thought I didn't have one, but I actually did. If you don't keep all the things in the same place, it's really easy to have duplicates, right? So I'm going to keep them all here. I also have this one from AliExpress. It's like, it's not cloth though. It's like a weird texture to it. This is another card file that I bought, and this is what I'm talking about um, when a new release happens and I end up just buying like all the new releases, even though when I think about it, I shouldn't have bought the passport size because it's this like light blue color that I really don't like, and that's why I don't use it. So it's just there. Maybe at some point I will incorporate it somewhere, but right now I'm just gonna leave it there because I'm just organizing all of my extra supplies into these two TNs, and my thought is to put all the extra, like inserts and things like that, all together, and supplies all together in these two TNs. And then I have a lot of stuff that are like in progress or to be dissected. And I'm going to put all those inserts and things in a different pile, of course. And these inserts that I have here are the passport size inserts, the Robiki Museum series made by Yamamoto Paper, and they're very high quality. And my whole thought was to use them for documenting visits to the museum. And it all started because we actually did buy like a family pass to visit like all these famous museums in Florence. And we did visit, but only like twice, and I completely like didn't even have time to enjoy myself. We had like a new baby at the time, and my kids are so young, and it was just like getting used to doing like museum visits and things that I didn't really like it didn't really pan out the way that I thought it was going to pan out in terms of museum visits, like when you're an adult and you can like, sit there or stand there and take your time like looking through something. So it was just a very different experience, and it wasn't what I thought it was going to be. So that's why I never even started using those inserts at all. But it is still on my list for like things to do. Maybe when my kids are older, it will work out. So I set those aside because I do still want to use those inserts and they're really nice. I wish I bought more of the other museum series actually. This is like the whole collector's aspect coming back, but they're just so pretty. Um, and so my final passport size TN that I have is this one that I have stamped on before. So it's like a little crazy and used like sort of bashed up because I was just experimenting on it. I had bought this camel passport size used as well. So it has like marks on the inside. Again, it's just really bashed. So I don't mind like experimenting more with it. But I have the weekly passport 2024 like dated inserts in it, and it's because I I basically use it for venting about modern day events, like political stuff, like all of that kind of stuff. And I use like a giant marker because it's basically venting. It's like my place to scream almost. And the reason why I do this is because of course you can talk to the people around you, right? But at the same time, sometimes like you just want to let out a bunch of like negative thoughts and things like that. And I don't necessarily have to feed that like into my family or to my husband or to my friends and things like that to hear it. I can just dump it all into a notebook and I think it's better. And I separate it because it's it's just in a separate place. And I don't know why I use the dated notebooks because that doesn't really make sense. It's not necessarily something that I want to keep the long term because again, it's like free journaling and I just keep it separate because it is very I'm literally screaming. Like I write in all caps sometimes. Yeah, it's that kind of journaling. And so I just have a place for it. So really I shouldn't even decorate or anything like that because I don't imagine keeping these forever. It's just a place to let my thoughts out. And I'm scribbling, it's all caps, like it's all that kind of stuff. So that's what I do in this Passport TN. And I'm just going to keep it that way because I think it's nice, again, to have a place where it's like, okay, I'm going to put Screaming Linda over there and I have a place for it and that's okay. Like I like that. So that's what I'm going to use this particular passport camel TN for and just leave it at that. I think it's okay, but moving forward, I'm not going to have like dated inserts because originally my thought was that it would be current events and it would actually go with the actual dates of when things happened and my reaction. Like if there's the election and I'm writing about my feelings, like actually on the week of the election. But it quickly like didn't work out that way because of the size. Obviously, I'm filling up a whole page just with one thought or something. So I just turned it into like a free notebook. It has nothing to do with the dates. So moving forward, I'm not going to buy like dated for this. I'm just going to use whatever like grid notebook or line notebook or whatever I have that I need to vent into. And probably I should use something that is not like Traveler's Notebook paper because I don't need nice paper. Again, I'm just screaming and scribbling in this. So it could be anything. I could just make my own inserts because I will probably destroy all this stuff at some time. I might read back on it to reflect on it and sort of use that information to journal elsewhere in a more collected manner, if that makes sense. It's almost like curating my own thoughts, but the actual crazy screaming, that kind of stuff, I'm probably not going to keep it the long term. Another lesson that I've learned just in general from journaling many, many years and having, oh my gosh, so many like scrapbooks and journals, creative art journals, writing journals, memory keeping things, all of that stuff. I realize over time that I can curate and reduce my collection over time from year to year. And there's no need for me to keep every single thing. And that's okay. And sometimes I start knowing that I'm not going to keep an insert to begin with, but oftentimes just try not to think about it and do whatever I want. And then after the fact, deal with it. And I know sometimes people are like, wait, how can you do that? Because if you journal or use an insert or a journal or notebook, there's two sides to the page, front and back. What if you only want the front? What if you don't want the back? There is such a thing as taking pictures, there's such a thing as scanning, there's such a thing as taking apart. But Sue's fish, she's like a pretty known like scrapbooker, and she goes off and on social media because obviously she's trying to do what works for her. But her thing is that she does create a lot, but she'll take everything apart and be like, oh, it was just the process, I don't need to keep like the page. I think that's just so amazing, because that really goes back to that idea of what are you doing it for? What is the end goal? And oftentimes the end goal is not the product. It's just the process, and that's okay. So everyone has to like figure it out for themselves and do what they want and make sure that all the decisions that they're making, it actually makes sense to their original like why am I doing this? What is it for? Yeah, so that is what this little TN is for. And now that I look at it, I feel like I should do more stamping and craziness on it just to practice and just to have fun because it's already, used in that way. I wanted to go through a quick little overview. And by the way, this is the 10th anniversary mini TN that I mentioned previously that I have. I opened it and it was so cool. You have to like make your own little TN insert. They have all the papers and everything, supplies for you. And there's lots of stickers. And then there is the whole guide that gives you a history of Traveler's Notebook. So it's so interesting, so cool. It's something that I want to go through and sort of use it in my stationery TN documentation as well. But also, I do want to use this little mini TN. I don't want to just keep it in its box and look at it because that's completely like it's cute and cool. It causes more anxiety for me to just have it there and it's just unused. I would rather use it, like start it, use it for something, but it is super tiny. Like one page would be like one sticker. So I feel like you do need to have somewhat of a plan for what you want to use it for because it is so tiny. But my daughter actually saw this and she was like, "Can I have it?" And I was like, why don't we do something together?" So I think I'm gonna do a project with her where we're gonna use some scrap leather and she's gonna make her own mini one. And then I can actually use this one and do the pages with her and do it all miniature sized. And she's super creative, so I'm sure she's gonna have like so many ideas. So that is a good idea for this mini TN and to get me to actually use it rather than just to have it as a collector's like tin box kind of thing. Now, for the rest of my TNs, I have this other travel tools. It's from 2020, the standard size insert, and I brought it out because I'm going to use it for some like joy journaling kind of thing. Basically, that mini insert that I showed you before that was like sort of getting torn apart, I'm going to dissect it and put it in here and sort of restart that whole project. And then I have all my TNs here because these are the two that are the storage ones. So you can see they have huge amounts of stuff. And I do have blank inserts that obviously wouldn't fit in here. So that's separate, like the totally packaged blank inserts. Those are like the other stuff that are not just inserts that I'm putting and storing in those two camel TNs. Then I have this insert that I am going to start and dissect the other old pages that I have and put them in here. So this olive that is actually from AliExpress, I've done a video on it before. It's like a dupe, but I like it more because it's olive colored. And then I have this other TN that I have a whole bunch of other dated inserts in there, so I'm gonna have to use it for something. And it is like a just for fun kind of setup. And I just realized that I must have done this off camera because I cannot find any footage of me updating that. So that must have been a session that I did without recording it. But basically, it has like the creative notebook that I do have videos about journaling and any of the dated inserts that I want to use. Then I have the Traveler's Diner, which has all the restaurant stuff. So those standard size inserts, I have a plan for all of these, and they're like semi set up and ready to go. So whenever I have the time, I can like go in and work on each one separately. And they all have like, a plan, so to speak. Then I have the Traveler's Train one, which I did show the sort of setup of. Then I have the stationary drama one. Right now it says stationary love, but later on I did update the label and it says stationary drama now. I thought it fit more with what obviously I was planning to document in that black TN. And then I briefly showed this one, but that is the Moterm one that I do my random brain dumping in on a daily basis, almost daily basis. Then the final one is the venting one. And what's the difference between the venting and the daily, like, Moterm one? The daily Moterm is just like anything, everything, but the venting one definitely is always like politics and all of that kind of stuff that really boils my blood and makes me scream. So that's why it's separate, because the other daily one isn't that like negative. It's just like random journaling. So those are my TNs. And if you've reached this point, I thank you so much for watching my video and me chit chatting about my TNs and basically coming to terms with my collection, organizing, and getting to a better place. So I'm definitely in a better state of mind regarding all of my stationery in my TN collection now, and happy to have it all semi set up and ready to go. So let me know down in the comments if you have any questions or feedback regarding all of these traveler's notebooks kind of things. And thank you so much for supporting me here. Until my next video. Bye.